Before Bama started to throw it all over the place, they won with the running game and, of course, with great defense. We got Stephen M. Smith on the line from Touchdown Alabama to break down the Tide on this side of the ball for 2020. Stephen, we appreciate you stopping by as always. Wouldn't do a breakdown during the offseason without you. Here we go. LeBron Ray, of course, hurt early in the season against South Carolina. He should be a force this year, should be fully back healthy. Christian Barmore, another one of the top returning players along the defensive front for the Tide. I looked over the first and second all SEC teams at defensive line. All 8 players are gone. So there's got to be some new playmakers for the entire conference up front. How does the Tide stack up?
Well, the defensive front, Mark, this is going to be a very, very interesting group of this season. Raekwon Davis gone to the National Football League with the Miami Dolphins, but you bring up LeBron Ray, who's back, a former 5-star in the 2017 class, who has a lot of potential, has a lot of upstart, a lot of pass rush ability. He can also stop the run, hurt his foot in the third game of the season last year against South Carolina, missed the remainder of the 2019 campaign, but back. And then with him, you got Christian Barmore, of whom in limited action was a terror. 26 tackles, 6 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, 5 quarterback hurries, just massive production. And with strong production in a limited action, he's going to get more of a leeway to be on the field this year. I expect big things from him. DJ Dale, who played this past year as a freshman, had some good numbers, some good moments. Hurt his knee during the latter part of last season, but he's back healthy. You've got guys like Fidarian Mathis on that defensive front, the redshirt junior, but I expect quite a bit from in the upcoming season. And then at the linebacker position, this is where it gets fun here. You return Dylan Moses, the captain of the group, the anchor of the group, the communications leader of the group, who did not play last year because of a knee issue. He had 86 tackles his sophomore year, was a finalist for the Butkus Award. He's back. You got Joshua McMillan, who's back for a 6th year. He came in the 2015 class, redshirted as a freshman, did not play last year because of an injury. He got a medical redshirt, so he's back for a 6th year. He taught Dylan Moses the defense. And then you've got Christian Harris back, Shane Lee back, both of those 2 freshmen thrown into the line of duty, got some experience, they're back. Alakaho, who's a junior this year, he's back. You've got Jalen Moody, just a ton of talent. And then at the outside linebacker spot, you've got not a lot of experience, but you've got talent. You lost Anthony Jennings and Terrell Lewis, but you do return Christopher Allen, he's back. King Wakuda, Ben Davis. This is finally the year where Ben Davis, the former 5-star from the 2016 class, finally knocked in mentally. You got Ben Davis, you got Jerez Park, Kevin Harris II. So you've got some talent back. Not really a lot of experience at the outside backer position. More of the experience, more so with the inside guys, with the defensive front, and then having Dylan Moses, the communicator, back in the middle of that defensive front. This group headlined by Pete Golding as the defensive coordinator. You got Sal Sincero, your outside linebackers coach, and you have Freddie Roach as the defensive line coach. Coach Roach played at Alabama as inside linebacker from 2001 to 05. Really, really big time players. Defensive front should be back at the benches this year.
Yeah, and you mentioned Jennings and Lewis take 24 tackles for loss and 14 sacks to the next level combined. You got 18 spots on the roster for linebackers, so there's plenty of talent there. 11 of them are first and second year players. And as you mentioned, Ben Davis, one of the intriguing guys, as he has spent a lot of time on campus, and Bama fans have been waiting for him to break out. Now we move on to one of Nick Saban's sources of pride and joy in that secondary play, and how you see that shaping up this year.
Secondary play, got to be able to have these guys trust their instincts because the talent's there. Patrick Surtain II, his father played in the National Football League with the Kansas City Chiefs and the Miami Dolphins. So the pedigree is there with Surtain. He's got the size at 6'2", 205 pounds. He's got the length. He's got the intelligence. For Surtain, it's always been more. He's in the right spot, but he's got the trust and technique, trust and leverage that he plays with. Opposite him, you have Josh Jobe, who's a very physical guy at 6'1", 6'2", 190 pounds out of the Miami, Florida area, but played his senior year of high school ball in Connecticut. And this is a guy that ended the year strong last year, had an interception against Michigan in the Citrus Bowl. The big thing for him is be passionate, play with emotion, but not get too physical to where it draws a flag. Sometimes his passion bleeds so much to his game that he gets too handsy with the wide receiver, and he's called for defensive holding, or he's called for pass interference. But if he can be passionate, play with that emotion, but also be smart on the field, then Josh Jobe will take that next step. And then you've got guys like Daniel Wright at that safety position. He came in the 2017 class. He's had to mature his mind. He's had to mature his body. He dealt with having a torn labrum in the shoulder, but he's back healthy. He's learned from guys like Minka Fitzpatrick, Deontay Thompson, Ronnie Harris, and also Xavier McKinney from last season. So now this is the year for Daniel Wright to lead this group. You've got Jordan Battle out of the Florida area, St. Thomas Aquinas High School. Last year, he had some good moments. I feel like this year, he will pop. He will take that next step and being a highlight safety in that defensive backfield for the Crimson Tide. And then you got some young guys. You got Marcus Banks coming back. You've got Jalen Armour-Davis back. You've got guys, freshman guys like Jaquez Robinson, who came in early in the 2020 class to help Alabama get before the Citrus Bowl. You got a Brian Branch out of the Georgia area. You've got Christian Story from Lynette High School here in Alabama, who is 6'1", 213 pounds. So Carl Scott, Charles Kelly, head coach Nick Saban, there's talent all over the secondary, but the major issues last year, Mark, were got to be able to form tackle, wrap up, break down tackle, not try so much to strip the ball out, but really tackle, and trust your instincts in coverage. When the ball is in the air, make sure your head turned around, play the football.
So, of course, we're joined by the incomparable Stephen M. Smith of TouchdownAlabama.com. That's your source for Alabama sports coverage, specifically football. We move on to special teams. Stephen has broken down offense and defense for us to get us set for 2020 and what we hope is a full football season or some semblance of that. Stephen, as you well know, this is a program that has missed more extra points than any in the past decade or so. 3 more misses at the extra point category last year. 12 of 18 field goals, not horrible, not great, decent figure there. How does the kicking shape up both at the place kicking and the punting and special teams overall?
Well, this year, Alabama will have Will Reichert back healthy, the 3-star kicker, which he equates to a 5-star player. The tie out of Hoover High School in Alabama. So Reichert's back. This was a guy that had a tremendous high school career. 31 made field goals, made all extra points, was great on touchbacks. 186 of his kickoff, 186 of his kicks of 188 attempts resulted in touchbacks in high school. So to have Reichert back was a big deal. He hurt his hip flexor in the 4th week of the season against Southern Miss. Alabama kind of rushed him back 2 weeks later against Tennessee. He wasn't quite ready to come back, and the tie had to put him back on the shelf for the remainder of the year. But he's back healthy, and for him, the idea is, if you can make 50-plus yard kicks, that's just gravy, that's just icing on the cake. But the big thing is making them within 40 yards, connecting on kicks within the 40-yard range. So if he can do that, along with hitting on all extra points, Alabama is fine with that for Will Reichert. Now, of course, Joseph Love's still on the roster as kind of an insurance purpose thing. And, he made some improvement last year, as you mentioned, but against Auburn in the Iron Bowl, missed the field goal that would have sent the game to the overtime. He had a couple of, extra points. So got to get better, in that area. Ty Pirine, who was the walk-on from Prattville, Alabama, came on strong last year. For a portion of the season, he earned his opportunity against Tennessee. He had a 51-yard moonball punt. He was a nice guy that sent fans into a frenzy. He ended last year averaging over 40 yards a punt, really, really strong. So, Alabama is excited about what he can do in this upcoming season as a sophomore in terms of the ankle punting, squeezing the return man, probably getting some balls, dropping inside the 20 to force opponents to drop the length of the field. So excited to see what Ty Pirine does in year 2. But in terms of the kicking game, Will Ryford back. He's healthy. The big thing is being able to be accurate within 40 yards, hitting all of the extra points. And if you can nail some 50-yard kicks, that'll be icing on the cake there.
This is a program that still finished in the top 10 with a backup quarterback playing down the stretch last year. Nick Saban won 5 national titles in 9 years. He's made that the standard. That is the standard, and that's the benchmark for this program. I'm going to try to ask a little bit more of a realistic question, Stephen, considering you can't win the whole thing if you don't get to the playoff, and most likely that takes getting an SEC championship, although Bama obviously reached the playoff without one in 2017. But most likely you've got to win the conference. Is that pretty much the bar? Is that the expectation? Is that the dividing line that you got to win the SEC? If not, it's a disappointment of a season. If you win the SEC, then you can obviously reach the higher goals.
I mean, absolutely. This team is hungry to win the conference this year, and that's the mindset of Coach Saban, winning this conference and then getting into the college football playoff. I mean, I go back to last year against LSU in the game against the Tigers, the Auburn matchup in the Iron Bowl. Even in the game against Tennessee a season ago, there were moments last year where Alabama was outworked, it was out-toughed, it was out-effort, it was out-physical. And that is unheard of, for a Nick Saban team to be out-effort, to be out-worked, to be out-physical. I mean, there are moments where sometimes the ball just doesn't bounce your way, but you always look at Alabama, they're going to give effort. They're not going to be out-worked. They're not going to be out-tough. They're not going to be out-physical. And there were just matchups where that happened. And the coaching staff was disappointed. The players were disappointed. Obviously, the fans were very much so angered, bothered, and frustrated by that. So I look at Coach Saban. He looks at this year as the year to where we got to get back to being tougher. We got to get back to being physical. We got to get back to having the work ethic that is unmatched, and doing those things. That's going to push us to win the conference and then, go to higher marks from there.
I still think people, whether they're Alabama fans or not, need to put Alabama's 2019 season into perspective. Consider that they lose a starting quarterback, one of the best in the nation. They still basically throw 2 pick sixes against Auburn, and it takes a clank off the left upright to not win that game or force an overtime against Auburn. They took on an LSU team that had the most prolific offense in the history of college football and still played a 46-41 game down to the final possession, and they still finished in the top 10 in the nation at 11-2. So it's still remarkable that they were that close considering the adversity and the breaks not going their way in certain situations. I know that it wasn't vintage Alabama, nor did it meet the standards in regards to the way it all finished out, but still an impressive football team that's able to accomplish at that level and play at that level despite some issues in 2019.
Absolutely, and there were a lot of issues there, Mark. There were injuries. There were moments where you had some chaotic things happen, especially in the communication aspect, but for Alabama to only lose 2 games, to lose both games by combined, 8 points, it played teams down the wire. It did. it did better than what a lot of people are making it out to be. When you look at this upcoming season, having guys that healthy, having depth at each position, having a hungry coaching staff, and having, Coach Saban, a guy that just finds different ways to motivate and push the utmost out of players. This should be, a really, really intriguing season.
Yeah, I got to say, when it all shook out last year, I still thought this was probably about the fourth best team in the country. So there's nothing to be ashamed of there. He is Stephen M. Smith of TouchdownAlabama.com. Please join him and the rest of the staff in covering the Tide and lock it in right here, of course, at the Voice of College Football. Stephen, couldn't do it without you. Appreciate the breakdown and hope to talk to you soon.
Absolutely, man. You be safe up there, Mark.